Good morning. Special pre Good Friday, Passover, holiday edition. Yeah, tomorrow's a public holiday here, plus I'm busy, so I thought I'd do this today, but I I woke up and I forgot. So just now I was like doing stuff and I thought, oh, shoot, I got to do this too. Otherwise, I'm in trouble with myself. So here we go. I'm only talking about one film today. There's quite a few films open in Hong Kong today, but I haven't seen any of the other ones. I've been pretty busy doing other stuff, so I only had a chance to see one film, but it's a goodie. And if you only have a chance to see one film over the next week, because next week is Avengers Endgame. I don't know where you live, but here in Hong Kong, it's like almost every cinema for sure, and almost every time slot is filled with Avengers Endgame, including 8 o'clock in the morning. They're starting like at 8 o'clock in the morning, going till I think like 10 o'clock, 10:15 at night, which means that it's a 3 hour and 2 minute movie, which means it's going to end after 1. Our subway stops running at 1. So I don't know how people are going to get home. So, not my problem. Anyhow, so I'm going to talk about the Polish film called Cold War. There have been quite a few other films with that name, but this one's the Polish one. And it was nominated most recently for an Academy, nominated for 3 Academy Awards, most notably Best Foreign Language Film. It was up against Roma. It lost, and but that doesn't mean you shouldn't see it, because it really is a good film. Now, this is Oscar-winning director Paweł Pawlowski's return after the film he did a few years ago called Ida. I think it was pronounced Ida, I can't remember, which won him an Oscar. And also, like let's call it Ida, because I can't remember if it was Ida or Ida. It's also a story about post-World War II Poland. However, this time it's a bit more personal, because the story, which he co-wrote, is inspired by his parents, his own parents' story, and the main characters of the film even have the same name as same first names as his parents. From what I've read, so he was born in Poland, and his mother, if I remember correctly, was a scientist or something. Father also highly educated, and the mother took him, whether there were other kids involved, I don't know, but took him when he was a child on a trip to England, and then decided not to go back. So she basically defected, but didn't tell him that she was going to defect, and left, from what I gathered, left the husband back in Poland. But I assume, based on this story, she must have seen her husband many times over the years. Maybe, now that I think about it, given this story, maybe the husband was supposed to come with her, but decided at the last minute not to, which is what happened in this story. So the story here, it's 1949, opens in 1949. Poland is emerging from the devastation of the war that saw 5 million of its citizens, 60% of them Jewish, die. And pianist and composer Victor, played by Thomas Kott, he was in Agnieszka Holland's film a couple years ago called Spoor, or in Polish, Pokot. And so he's a composer, he's a pianist and composer, and ethnomusicologist. I love that word, ethnomusicologist. I actually know an ethnomusicologist. Irena, played by Agata Kulesa, who was in Ida, and Communist Party apparatchik Kazmarek, played by Boris Sich, who was also in Spoor. They're traveling from village to village, recording the folk songs of the country's various ethnic communities before the government uproots these people. Now, in an early exchange in the film between Victor and Kazmarek, there's a group of people called the Lemkos, and I must admit I never heard of the Lemkos, so I looked them up. The Lemkos were one of these ethnic communities, indigenous people, let's call it, and around that time, after the war, they were ethnically cleansed. They lived in southeast Poland, northwest Ukraine, actually pretty much where my father's mother grew up, in that area. And what happened was the government relocated these people to the northwest part of Poland, which was formerly German territory. And apparently Andy Warhol was a Lemko. Didn't know that. Learned that this week. So this is very interesting that in this film, so they're going around, listening to these folk songs and recording them for posterity, and yet at the same time the government is ethnically cleansing them. Interesting. Now the goal of these people is to create an elite folk and song dance troupe, and that's where they meet Zula, played by Johanna Kulik. She was also in Ida. And she's an ambitious and feisty young woman who is on probation for stabbing her father, her abusive father, I might add. And although Victor is much older, he is immediately smitten with Zula, and it's not long before they're in a relationship. And as the troupe's reputation grows, the party bosses insist on adding a few patriotic Stalinist songs and dances to their performances. And this represents a bridge too far for Victor, and he decides to defect to the West at the first opportunity. Hopefully with Zula, but it happens that she decides to stay in Poland as she's a somebody there. She's gaining fame. And over the next decade, the couple meet up from time to time in various countries on both sides of the Iron Curtain, and although both their lives have changed for the better and for the worse, and in some ways it got better, in some ways it got worse, their fiery passion for each other hasn't died. Now, this film, that's all I'll tell you about the story. Now, this film is beautifully shot in crisp black and white. I assume it was digital because it is so crisp. And it has a boxy aspect ratio. It's like 4:3, almost like old style TV ratio. It's reminiscent of old Eastern European films. And this film, this could have very easily have been a 3-hour epic in the vein of Dr. Zhivago. That's the style that it is. Instead, it's a very efficient 89 minutes. There's not like a wasted moment in this film, and it's presented as chapters. You have very hard fade outs, so it's presented as chapters in the couple's very tempestuous relationship, and wonderful. It was great. Rather than having this 3-hour drudge, or let's what was the other one with the English Patient? This is sort of like anti, because it's very, very short. And Zulik, I gotta say, she is amazing. She's fabulous. Or Kulik is fabulous as Zula. She plays the character, starting off as this wild teenager and ending off as this boozy woman who has seen happier days. And it's all done with makeup. She's 36 years old, so let's say the film was shot a couple years ago, she would have been 34. She's got to start at about 17. And the makeup department does this amazing job when making her look like 17. And then at the end, when she's probably her own age, let's say 34, but has seen better days. I don't know if she put on weight or if she's wearing a fat suit. I don't know what happened, but again, she looks amazing at the end as well. So, and there's one scene, giving her credit again because she really was fantastic. There's one scene where perhaps we assume she's hearing rock and roll for the first time, and she just explodes in energy, and the whole scene is electric. And really, really well done. If she was a Hollywood actress, she'd be zooming to the top. She'd be on the A-list after this performance. But she's Polish, and that doesn't happen to foreign actresses by and large. Fortunately, we'll be seeing more of her next year, 2020. And there's a Netflix musical drama television series that's been created by Damien Chazelle, the guy from La La Land, and the drumming one. I can't, my brain is frazzled today. But let's say La La Land. So she'll be in that film, that TV show. It's called The Eddy, E-D-D-Y. I assume that's the name. Maybe it's the Edward Hotel, the Edwardian Hotel, and they call it The Eddy for short. And it co-stars Andre Holland, who was in Moonlight and Selma, and TV's The Nick, which was an amazing TV show, and unfortunately They only did 2 seasons of it. I wish they would have done more, but they didn't. So yeah, so that's going to be next year. Looking forward to that. Now, as I said, the film is in black and white, and color is and lack of color. That's called lack of color is important here because it's post-war, and I think the director wanted to show how drab things were. So there's no color here, but music also, not surprisingly, is very important in the film. There's 5 versions. I had to count them because I wasn't sure. 5 versions of the folk song "Two Hearts." It's a Polish folk song, and so there's 5 variations of the song throughout the film. It starts off with a Polish peasant girl singing it for Victor and Irena, and it ends with this torchy French version recorded by Zula. If you watch the trailer, you'll see Zula singing a torchy Polish version of it, but then it changes again. So there's like 5 different versions of the song, and this represents the journey that this couple take throughout the film. So the song mirrors, the morphing of the song mirrors the morphing of their relationship. Very well done. Now the film premiered last May, so it's like almost a year ago now, at the Cannes Film Festival, where Pawlowski won the Best Director award. It then won 5 awards at the European Film Awards in December. It was nominated in 6 categories, won 5 of them, and then it was nominated for 3 Oscars. Unfortunately, as I said, it lost to Roma, so it didn't bring home any Oscars, but I would say in any other year, it would have won the Best Foreign Language Oscar film because it's really just a tremendous film, great film. So Cold War, I know it's been playing in other places around the world. It's finally opening here in Hong Kong late and the week before Avengers, which means who knows how long it'll be here. But do make an effort to go see it. It is scorchingly sexy. It's devastatingly powerful. Has great performances, beautifully shot. Just 5 stars. I didn't put it in my top 10. It would definitely be in my top 15. Let's put it there, from last year. Definitely top 15. So that's Cold War. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Next week, of course, I'm talking about Avengers and a Japanese film, which I saw last night, which is also opening next week. I don't know. It's sort of like they must have had the film and thought, what are we going to do with it? Oh, let's put it opposite the Avengers. So I'll talk about those 2. And that's it. So have a wonderful weekend. If you celebrate Passover, celebrate Easter, have a great holiday, and see you next week. And don't forget to check out my website, howard4film.com, howard4film.com, or watch all these videos on the YouTube channel, Howard4Film, also on the website, also on my Facebook page, Howard4Film. Bye.